Good evening. We'd like to start our organizational meeting with the opening singing of O Canada. I'd like everyone to stand. We have our student Elena Benson, who is here to sing O Canada. Thank you very much, Elena. At this point, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I wish to acknowledge that our meeting is taking place on the unceded and unsurrendered Algonquin territory. I'd like to thank, on our behalf, the Algonquin territory for hosting us on their land. As you know, I am Camille Williams-Taylor, Director of Education and Secretary to the Board. It is my pleasure to be here tonight, initially presiding as chair for the board's organizational meeting. At this point, I'm going to ask Métis Elder Lois McCallum to provide opening remarks to formally open our meeting. And Elder McCallum is just joining us now.
Thank you. Good evening, Tansy. Creator, we give thanks to the grandmothers and grandfathers who, against unsurmountable odds, have held on to our identities, our ways, and our belief, who, despite all the pressures exerted upon them, have kept the fires burning. We are the children and grandchildren of these enlightened ones. Show us how to move forward, live our lives as you have taught us, ever mindful of the past, full of courage for the future. Help us to rely on the teachings and wisdom of our ancestors and to transmit these teachings to our children so that all families and individuals will enjoy living full and productive lives. Merci, miigwech, thank you.
Miigwech. At this time, it is our requirement to approve the agenda. And so could I please ask for a motion to approve the agenda? Trustee Huff, and a seconder for that motion. Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor? Okay, and it is opposed and abstentions? None. So it is approved. Motion carried. Director's annual report to the community. I believe it was on the screen. I'm pleased to introduce the 2018-2019 Director's Annual Report to the community as required by the Education Act. This year, we will, as we are transitioning the production to an online annual report, we've prepared a short video on the district's accomplishment over the past year. A full electronic report will be available in January in time for the required submission by January 31st. Is it up there now? Without further ado, I'm going to ask John to get us to play, and there will be no requirement for me to have any further commentary after you have seen the video. Good evening. My name is Camille Williams-Taylor, the Director of Education for the Ottawa-Carleton District School Board. Each year, we publish a Director's Annual Report to the community. This report demonstrates our commitment and accountability to the community for the achievement and well-being of all students. The end of the 2018-19 school year saw the completion of the Board's 2015 to 2019 strategic plan. This plan was built on 5 key objectives: equity, engagement, learning, stewardship, and well-being. The work done under these objectives was aimed at supporting the Board in achieving its key responsibilities of student achievement and student well-being. In this year's Director's Annual Report to the community, we not only celebrate the completion of that plan, but also the many accomplishments and progress made in the 2018-19 school year at both the district level and the school level. The report provides examples of the emphasis the district has placed on student voice through forums and conferences such as the Black Youth Conference, Date with Diversity, the Indigenous Student Forum, and the Rainbow Youth Forum. The cumulative effect is that student voice is increasingly shaping learning and decision-making. You'll see evidence of our efforts to increase awareness and exposure to technology, skilled trades, and apprenticeship pathways for all students, including experiential learning and specialist high skills major programs. An important part of our work is the creation of an annual board improvement plan for student achievement and well-being, which outlines our focus, goals, and actions for the year. The report provides a summary of student achievement, a look at the historical trends, and the EQAO results for the 2018-19 school year. We also take the opportunity to recognize and celebrate the many staff members, students, and community partners whose contributions positively impact the lives of others around them, and to recognize the contributions of our partners, the Education Foundation of Ottawa and the Ottawa-Carleton Education Network. On behalf of the senior staff and trustees, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has made our work possible this past year. We have a great deal to be proud of. Thank you. So I'm not really sure about the background noise, but we will proceed.
Madam Chair?
Is it on the phone?
Yeah, if who's ever on the phone needs to be put on mute.
I think Persith had remoted in the committee room.
Oh. Okay. All right, so we're moving to the next item, which is the appointment of election assistants. So for the purpose of administering the election process this evening, I've appointed 2 election assistants. Our election assistants this evening will be AD Brett Reynolds and Executive Officer Michelle Giroux. So our first item in our election process is the election of the chair of the OCDSB. So at this point, I'd like to take a moment to review the rules with the respect to all of the elections. An individual may self-nominate or be nominated by another member. Each nomination requires both a mover and a seconder. Upon nomination, I will confirm the interest of the nominees or nominee for the position, and once all nominations have been made, I will ask for a motion to close nominations. After the close of nominations, the nominees will be invited in alphabetical order to speak for up to 2 minutes, and that's alpha order according to last name. After each nominee has had the opportunity to speak, I will ask the election assistants to distribute the ballots. I will remind the members of the names of the nominees prior to the voting. Each member will be given one ballot and will be asked to mark the ballot with an X and fold it and then return it to the election assistant. The election assistants will tabulate the results and return the results to me. I will announce the results. I will also like to remind you that to be elected, a candidate must receive a majority of valid votes cast. If no candidate receives a clear majority, then a second ballot will be held. If no candidate receives a clear majority on the second ballot, the name of the person receiving the fewest votes shall be dropped from the ballot, and the members shall vote again on the remaining candidates. This continues until one candidate receives a majority vote. Where it is necessary to break a tie vote, a second ballot shall be held between or amongst the candidates involved in the tie. If a vote to break a tie results in a tie again, the candidates involved shall draw cards to determine the results using the bridge convention to determine ranking of cards. Ace is high, with cards suit in the following order: priority, spade, heart, diamond, and club. Once the chair of the board has been elected, I will relinquish the chair of the meeting to him or her, invite the newly appointed chair to take a short acceptance speech, up to 2 minutes, and following that, at the discretion of the newly elected chair, there may be a short recess in order to acquaint the chair with his or her responsibilities. For reference purposes, trustees may wish to use the tally sheet provided on your desks this evening. If there are any questions, we can entertain those, and Executive Officer Giroux will assist us. I see no questions. So at this point, I will now open the floor for nominations for the office of Chair of the Board. Trustee Schwartz.
I would like to nominate Trustee Scott.
Is there a seconder? Okay, Trustee Fisher. Trustee Scott, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Are there any other nominations? Yep, Trustee Blackburn.
I'd like to close nominations, please.
Do we need a seconder for that? Yes, seconder. Trustee Lara. Nominations closed. Sorry? So at this point, we have no other nominations. We have Trustee Scott. So Trustee Scott is acclaimed, and we welcome her to the seat of the chair of the OCDSB for 2019-20. Trustee Scott.
I don't think I actually need a whole 2 minutes to say this, but I would like to say thank you all very much for your support and for choosing me to continue for the coming year. Last year was a very good, big year for all of us. There was a lot of learning that happened, and we actually managed to move ahead with a lot of good things. A large chunk of that was laying groundwork for some of the things that we're doing this year. And I'm very confident that because all of you have stepped up when you were needed, have contributed well to our discussions and decision-making, have not been afraid to disagree when it was important and necessary and helpful to disagree, I really look forward to having another very good year this year. So thank you all very much. Moving on with our agenda then. Next up, we have election of the vice chair of the board. And I would like to ask if there are any nominations for vice chair. Trustee Bronovan?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Penny.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Huff will second. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Penny?
I do, Madam Chair.
Are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? Trustee Blackburn?
I'd like to close nominations, Madam Chair.
And do we have a seconder for the motion to close nominations? Trustee Jenikins? I'll call the question then on closing nominations. All those in favor? And opposed? The motion is carried. And I declare that Trustee Penny is elected as vice chair by acclamation. Congratulations. And moving on then, we come to the election of the chair of Committee of the Whole Budget. And again, I will ask if there are any nominations for this position. Trustee Blackburn.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Schwartz.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Fisher will second that. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Schwartz? Are there any other nominations for chair of Committee of the Whole Budget? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to close nominations, please.
And a seconder for motion to close nominations, Trustee Penny. All those in favor of closing nominations? And the motion is carried because I think that was unanimous. So I would like to declare Trustee Schwartz elected by acclamation to the position of Chair of Committee of the Whole Budget. Congratulations, Trustee Schwartz. And now we come to a departure from the usual format for a board organizational meeting, and that is I would like to call on our outgoing Vice Chair, Trustee Bronovan, for her report from Committee of the Whole in camera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board met in camera this evening and reports as follows. On a motion by Trustee Blackburn, which I will second, A, that in the event of a full withdrawal of services of the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, OSSTF, teachers and occasional teachers, and OSSTF education workers, all Ottawa-Carleton District School Board elementary and secondary schools will be closed to students. B, that in the event of a full withdrawal of services of Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, OSSTF education workers, all Ottawa-Carleton District School Board elementary and secondary schools will be closed to students. And C, that in the event of a full withdrawal of services of Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, OSSTF, teachers and occasional teachers, all Ottawa-Carleton District School Board secondary schools will be closed to students in grades 9 to 12.
Thank you. Our deliberations and debate were held in camera. So I will call the question on a recorded vote. All those in favor?
Excuse me, Trustee Scott, Trustee Boothby, Trustee Blackburn, Trustee Huff, Trustee Campbell, Trustee Ellis, Trustee Jenkins, Trustee Penny, Trustee Lyra, Trustee Bronovan, Trustee Fisher, and Trustee Schwartz.
And opposed? And abstentions? I believe that was a unanimous vote. Thank you. So the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Trustee Bronovan. Is there anything else to report?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. And now moving on to the election or appointment of trustee members to statutory committees, item 11 on our agenda, and beginning with 11.1 Special Advisory Committee. And in this case, we are looking at 3 trustees to be elected for 3-year appointments. Trustees will recall we have had previous memoranda explaining this relative to the language in the regulation. So are there any questions about process for this? If there are none, the floor is open. Do you have a question, Trustee Lyra? Please go ahead.
When we mark our ballots, how many names are we going to put X's beside?
We will be voting for 3 people, so we will have a list of all the people who have been nominated, and each of us can vote for 3, and we will keep voting until we reach a decision.
Not up to 3, exactly 3?
It's up to the trustee how many names they put an X beside. That's an individual decision and not something that we know about. But you may not vote for more than 3. So the floor is open for nominations, and let me just get a clean sheet of paper here to keep track. Trustee Schwartz.
I would like to nominate Trustee Blackburn.
And is there a seconder for that nomination? Trustee Campbell? And do you accept the nomination?
I do, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Penny?
I would like to nominate Trustee Boothby.
Is there a seconder for that nomination? Trustee Ellis? And Trustee Boothby, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, thank you.
And Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Ellis.
And is there a seconder for that nomination? Trustee Fisher? And do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you.
And Trustee Campbell?
I'd like to self-nominate.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Boothby, thank you. And Trustee Huff, did you have your hand up to nominate somebody, or are there any other nominations for the Special Education Advisory Committee? Would someone like to move to close nominations if there are no more? Trustee Boothby, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. So we have 4 candidates to consider. Trustee Blackburn, Trustee Boothby, Trustee Ellis, and Trustee Campbell. Did I get that right? I didn't miss anybody?
Thank you, and trustees Boothby, Campbell, and Ellis are elected to SEAC.
So congratulations to trustees Boothby, Campbell, and Ellis, elected on the first ballot. And then moving on to Audit Committee, Trustee Penny is currently entering the second year of a 2-year term, but we do need to elect one trustee to a 1-year term and one trustee to a 2-year term to serve with Trustee Penny on Audit Committee. So first of all, with regard to the 1-year term, are there nominations for the 1-year term? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Fisher.
And this is for the 1-year term. Is there a seconder for that? Or is it going to be easier to do these all, just sort it out and then figure out which trustee is going to do 1 year and 2 year?
Yeah, I'd be happy
Okay.
to nominate for either 2 or 1, whichever the trustee would prefer.
And if there's an argument about it, then we can decide, make the decision. So Trustee Fisher is nominated by Trustee Boothby, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. Do you accept the nomination? Excellent, thank you. And do we have other nominations for Audit Committee? Trustee Campbell.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Schwartz.
And Trustee Campbell nominates Trustee Schwartz. Is there a seconder for that? Trustee Jenkins. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Schwartz? Are there any other nominations for the Audit Committee? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to close nominations, please.
So we have a motion to close nominations. Is there a seconder for that? Trustee Jenkins will second that. So that means that Trustees Fisher and Schwartz are appointed to the Audit Committee by acclamation. Have you, between you, sorted out which one of you is the 2-year term and which one of you is the 1-year term? Could you use your mic and speak up, please?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll do 2.
So we've got Trustee Fisher then for 2 years ending in November 2021, Trustee Penny continuing in his second year ending November 2020, and Trustee Schwartz 1 year ending November 2020. Thank you very much and congratulations. Next one, Parent Involvement Committee. The information is in your package at folio 26, and we are looking for 1 member and 1 alternate here. Trustee Penny.
I would like to nominate Trustee Jenkins.
And is there a seconder for that nomination? Trustee Schwartz will second. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Jenkins?
I accept.
And are there any other nominations? Trustee Huff?
I'd like to self-nominate.
And Trustee Huff will self-nominate. Is there a seconder for Trustee Huff? Trustee Boothby will second. Thank you for that. Are there any other nominations for PIC? So I think the important thing here is that we do need to have 1 member and 1 alternate. Trustee Lyra?
I was just going to move to close nominations.
We'll move to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of closing nominations? and opposed, and that motion is carried. So we are actually only voting for one person this time around for the member position. So one name of the two, and ballots will be distributed. And we have a tie vote, so there will be a second ballot with both names on it. So it appears that we have a tie vote again, which means that we will be drawing cards. We haven't done that for a long time.
Using the bridge convention.
So in terms of the drawing of the cards, we use the bridge convention to determine the ranking of cards. Ace is high, with the card suits in the following order of priority. Spades highest, followed by hearts, diamonds, and clubs are the lowest. So please go in alphabetical order for the drawing of cards. And we need to know what cards have been drawn. So,
Ace is a high card,
Yeah.
following in order of priority.
Yeah.
Spade high.
yeah.
So, she's on the bottom.
Four of hearts wins. Trustee Huff, congratulations. And next up, we have to appoint an alternate member to pick. The floor is open for nominations. Trustee Jenkins,
I'd like to self-nominate.
and that is seconded by Trustee Penny. Are there any other nominations for alternate for pick? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to close nominations.
So we have a motion to close nominations. All those in favor of closing, seconded by, we need a seconder for that, Trustee Lyra. Thank you. All those in favor of closing nominations and opposed, and that motion is carried. So congratulations, Trustee Jenkins. You are the alternate for pick. We're seeing a lot of change here. And that brings us on to Supervised Alternative Learning Committee for the regular member for that. Nominations, please. Trustee Boothby.
I'll self-nominate, please.
And is there a seconder? Trustee Lyra. And I don't need to ask if you accept the nomination. Are there any other nominations for regular member for Supervised Alternative Learning? Trustee Ellis?
I'd like to close nominations.
And a motion to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Lyra. All those in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? And that motion is carried. So we have Trustee Boothby, congratulations, appointed as the member again by acclamation. And we need also to have an alternate for Supervised Alternative Learning. Nominations are open. Trustee Boothby.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Ellis, please.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Lyra, do you accept the nomination, Trustee Ellis?
I do.
Are there any other nominations for alternate for Supervised Alternative Learning? Trustee Lara?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
We have a motion to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And the motion is carried. So congratulations, Trustee Ellis. You are the alternate for Sal by acclamation. Moving on then, we have the Ad-Hoc Committee for Board Self-Evaluation Process and the Director Performance Evaluation Process. We need 3 members here. The committee we appointed last year completed its mandate once the process was set, and we establish a new ad hoc committee every year to manage the process for this year. So for the 3 positions, nominations, please. Trustee Boothby.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Huff, please.
And is seconded by Trustee Schwartz. Trustee Huff, do you accept the nomination? And are there any other nominations? Trustee Penny.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Jenkins.
And is there a seconder for Trustee Jenkins? Trustee Schwartz again. Trustee Jenkins, do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Thank you. And do we have any other nominations for this one? This committee usually doesn't meet a ton of times, but it needs to understand and look carefully at what the requirements of the policy are to recommend the process to the board. Trustee Boothby?
I'll self-nominate unless Trustee Schwartz would like to.
Thank you, Trustee Boothby. Do we have a seconder for Trustee Boothby's nomination? Trustee Huff will second that. So, and I take it you do accept the nomination, grudgingly. But do we have any other nominations for this committee? Someone wants Trustee Ellis?
I'd like to move closure of nominations.
Thank you for that. Seconded by Trustee Lyra. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. And so we have Trustees Huff, Jenkins, and Boothby appointed by acclamation as members of the Ad Hoc Committee for Board Self-Evaluation and Director Performance Evaluation Processes. So next up, we have the Community Member Recognition Awards Selection Ad Hoc Committee. And again, the composition of this committee is the chair, the vice chair, and up to 3 additional trustees. So are there nominations for this committee, including self-nominations? This committee usually meets once, maybe twice, but I'm not sure that it's ever had to meet twice. Trustee Jenkins?
I'd like to self-nominate.
And do we have a seconder for Trustee Jenkins? Trustee Huff, thank you very much. Any other nominations? Trustee Boothby?
I'll self-nominate.
And a seconder for Trustee Boothby? Trustee Schwartz, thank you. And are there any other nominations for this? Bearing in mind it's up to 3, it doesn't have to be 3, but it's up to the board how many it chooses to appoint here. Trustee Huff?
I will self-nominate.
Trustee Huff will self-nominate for this. And a seconder for Trustee Huff. Trustee Jenkins, thank you. Are there any other nominations for this? Trustee Evans, trustee Lyra, sorry.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And that is seconded by trustee Ellis. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed, and the motion is carried, and I declare trustees Jennings, Boothby, and Huff as the three trustee members of the Ad Hoc Committee for Community Member Recognition Awards. We have the Advocacy Strategy Committee, which includes the chair, vice chair, and up to 4 trustees. Trustee Lyra.
Very quick question. When does this committee usually meet?
The committee meets at the call of the chair. So typically there's at least one meeting in the earlier part of the fall, and then there may be several other meetings. A lot depends on what is happening in terms of provincial actions.
Sorry, let me clarify. What time of the day does this usually meet?
Depends on the availability of the committee members.
Okay.
But it usually is more daytime as opposed to an evening meeting. So it could meet at 3 or 4 p.m. or it could meet over a noon hour, depending on who can make it. So nominations for the ad hoc, or sorry, it's not an ad hoc committee anymore, the Advocacy Strategy Committee. Oh, don't put trustee Penny.
I'd like to nominate trustee Boothby.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Huff. Trustee Boothby, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, thanks.
Are there other nominations for this committee? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to self-nominate.
And trustee Lyra would self-nominate. And a seconder for trustee Lyra? Trustee Bronovan. Thank you. Other nominations for ad hoc strategy? If by any chance we don't have 4 trustees from tonight, we can always revisit it down the road because sometimes people's circumstances do change and they find they do have an interest or time. Or Trustee Ellis?
I'd like to self-nominate.
And Trustee Ellis would like to self-nominate, seconded by Trustee Boothby. And are there any other nominations? Trustee Boothby.
I'd like to nominate trustee Huff.
And that is seconded by Trustee Jennings. Trustee Huff, do you accept? Are there any other nominations for this committee? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nomination.
So motion to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Ellis. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? That's carried. So we do have trustees Boothby, Lyra, Ellis, and Huff appointed to the Advocacy Strategy Committee by acclamation. And now we come to the Ottawa Student Transportation Authority. We need to appoint one member for a 2-year term. Trustee Blackburn will continue to serve. She is in the 2nd year of a 2-year term. So nominations for OSTA. Trustee Blackburn.
I'd like to nominate you, Madam Chair.
Trustee Boothby, are you seconding? And yes, I would actually accept this nomination. Trustee Huff, you had your hand up. Are there any other nominations for OSTA? Trustee Schwartz?
I would like to nominate trustee Jennings.
For the 2-year term? Trustee, and a seconder for that? Trustee Boothby? Trustee Jennings, do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Thank you for that. Are there any other nominations for this committee? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And seconded by Trustee Campbell. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? That motion is carried, so we'll have another election.
The only problem with that one was it was Friday at 5:30. I think they made it 5:30.
We have a tie vote and a second ballot would be required. However, what I would like to do at this point is withdraw my name from nomination and declare that Trustee Jenkins will be the new OBSPA or OSTA director. Congratulations, Trustee Jenkins. And yes, they will provide some orientation, I believe. We also need 2 trustees to serve as alternates for OSTA. The reason being quite simply that quorum requires a minimum of 3 directors from each of the 2 member school boards. And so there are occasions when we really do need to have those alternates. So do we have nominations or volunteers for alternates? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Scott.
I believe the chair and vice chair are automatically alternates. They don't have to be elected because it's ex officio, but I think that was in the policy. Perhaps staff could confirm that.
That is correct.
Thank you very much anyway. So 2 people who potentially could be alternates, Trustee Schwartz.
I'll happily self-nominate as an alternate.
And seconder for that, Trustee Boothby, you're seconding that. Do we have another person who would be able to be an alternate? Trustee Ellis?
I'll self-nominate.
And Trustee Ellis is also self-nominating. The meetings are at 5:30 on Mondays at Confederation as a normal rule. So, seconder for Trustee Ellis, Trustee Boothby. Are there any other nominations for alternates for OSTA? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And a seconder for closing nominations? Trustee Boothby? All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? That carries. So we have Trustees Schwartz and Ellis as alternates for the coming year for OSTA. Thank you very much. Ottawa-Carleton Education Network. Trustee Penny.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Boothby.
And seconded by Trustee Bronovan. Trustee Boothby, do you accept? And Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Penny.
And seconded by Trustee Schwartz. Trustee Penny, do you accept? Are there any other nominations to serve on the board of OCNet? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And a seconder for closing nominations, Trustee Campbell. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And nominations are closed. And I declare Trustees Boothby and Penny elected as board members for the Ottawa-Carleton Education Network by acclamation. Next one is the School Active Transportation Support Network Steering Committee. I understand this committee has not met, as far as I know, this year. I inquired about the status of the committee. It has not, at this point, been stood down, so we should appoint someone to it, but I don't think there are going to be a lot of meetings, probably. So nominations for School Active Transportation Support Network Steering Committee, Trustee Huff.
I will happily self-nominate for this hardworking committee.
And seconded by Trustee Lyra. Are there any other nominations for the School Active Transportation Support Network Steering Committee? This one could be a very competitive one. Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
We have a motion to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. Congratulations, Trustee Huff.
We wanted to nominate Councillor Kavanaugh, but we thought that might not be appropriate.
Well, certainly this was Councillor Kavanaugh's passion when she was a member of our board, and I'm sure that she would be pleased to know we were still thinking of her fondly with regard to this initiative, which has actually come out to be a very interesting one, which is now being emulated to greater and lesser extents across the province. So, moving on then to agenda planning meeting. Chair, vice chair, we need one member and one alternate. So first, for the third member of the agenda, for agenda planning. Nominations. Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Ellis.
And a seconder for Trustee Ellis. Trustee Boothby. Trustee Ellis, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for agenda planning? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
So we have a motion to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Boothby. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And the motion is carried. So congratulations, Trustee Ellis. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. And we also need to have an alternate for the trustee who joins the chair and vice chair in this. Nominations for alternate. Trustee Boothby.
I'll self-nominate for alternate.
So seconder for Trustee Boothby. Trustee Huff. Any other nominations for alternate trustee to join the chair and vice chair for agenda planning? Someone move. Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
Trustee Lyra is moving to close nominations, seconded by Trustee Campbell. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? That motion is carried. So thank you very much, Trustee Boothby, for that. Congratulations to you and Trustee Ellis. It seems like a very long list, but we are actually making progress. Next one, the Code of Conduct duties, chair or vice chair plus 2 alternate trustees. We may not, in fact, need this position for very much longer, but since we're not quite there yet, because we haven't yet approved an integrity commissioner policy, we should make the appointment of the 2 alternates. So nominations or self-nominations? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Schwartz.
And seconded by Trustee Campbell. Trustee Schwartz, do you accept? I saw you nod your head. Other nominations for alternates with regard to Code of Conduct duties? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Campbell.
And seconded by Trustee Schwartz. Trustee Campbell, do you accept?
I decline with thanks.
Are there any other nominations, Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Jenkins.
And that's seconded by Trustee Ellis. Trustee Jenkins, do you accept?
I accept.
Are there any other nominations? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And that's seconded by Trustee Huff. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. So I would like to declare that Trustee Schwartz and Jenkins are the 2 alternates for Code of Conduct duties. That's very much on an if required basis. Next, we have trustee mentor for the student trustees. Open to nominations. Trustee Ellis.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Lyra.
And that's seconded by Trustee Huff. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Lara?
I do.
Are there any other nominations for student trustee mentor? Trustee Boothby?
I'd like to close nominations.
So we have a motion to close nominations seconded by Trustee Huff. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed, and that motion is carried. So Trustee Lyra, you will be the student trustee mentor again. Congratulations. We also need non-voting trustee for the student senate. This is a volunteer position. These are non-voting ones. Trustee Ellis
Self-nominate.
will self-nominate. And do we have a seconder for Trustee Ellis? Trustee Boothby, thank you. Do we have any other trustees interested in volunteering for this? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
Thank you. Seconder for closing nominations? Trustee Huff? All those in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you for that, Trustee Ellis. And do we have anyone who's willing to be an alternate for Student Senate? Trustee Boothby?
I'll self-nominate unless Trustee Campbell wants to. I'll self-nominate.
Trustee Boothby, you would enjoy Student Senate, I'm sure. Seconder for Trustee Boothby? Trustee Ellis? Any others? Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And a seconder for closing nominations, Trustee Boothby. All those in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? That motion is carried. Non-voting trustee for advisory committee for extended day and child care programs. And I'm trying to figure out why the tally sheet has Trustee Ellis's name already here. Did something happen when the rest of us weren't looking? Since the fix was not in, this is open to nominations and self-nominations. Trustee Campbell.
Self-nominate.
Trustee Campbell is self-nominating. Anybody else? Do we have a seconder for Trustee Campbell? Trustee Ellis, thank you. You sure you don't want to self-nominate? So, are there any other volunteers? Trustee Boothby?
I'll move to close nomination.
And a seconder for closing nominations, Trustee Lyra. All those in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Trustee Campbell, you are back on Advisory Committee for Extended Day. Advisory Committee on the Arts. Are there any nominations or self-nominations here? Trustee Huff.
Why, I guess I will self-nominate.
Are there any other volunteers for Advisory Committee on the Arts? Well, we need a seconder for that. Trustee Lyra will second that. Are there any other volunteers? Trustee Lyra, you're being very quick with the hands over there, getting them up.
I'd like to get out of here before 10 o'clock.
So you are moving to close
I
nominations.
am moving to close nominations.
And that will be seconded by Trustee Penny. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that is carried. Alternative Schools Advisory. Trustee Boothby.
I'll self-nominate for the 6th year.
And seconder for Trustee Ellis, thank you. Any other nominations? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And a seconder for that? Trustee Boothby. All those in favor of closing nominations? And that motion is carried, opposed, and that motion is carried. So, Advisory Committee on Equity, chair plus up to 2 trustees. Trustee Boothby.
I'll nominate Trustee Campbell, please.
So Trustee Campbell is nominated, seconded by Trustee Fisher. Do you accept the nomination, Trustee Campbell? Who else? Trustee Ellis?
I'll self-nominate, please.
And Trustee Ellis is seconded by Trustee Fisher. And are there any other nominations for Advisory Committee on Equity? Trustee Lyra.
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And so we need a seconder for closing nominations. Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. And congratulations, Trustees Campbell and Ellis. We need a non-voting delegate for the Indigenous Education Advisory Council. Trustee Lara.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Huff.
And do we have a seconder? Trustee Jenkins. Trustee Huff, do you accept? And are there any other nominations? Trustee Lara?
I'd like to move to close nominations.
And closing nominations motion, seconded by Trustee Boothby. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? That motion is carried. Congratulations and thank you, Trustee Huff. Non-voting trustee member for the Environmental Education Steering Committee, if required. Trustee interested in this one? Trustee Huff?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Lyra.
And seconded by Trustee Boothby. Would you accept the nomination, Trustee Lyra? Any other nominations for this one? Trustee Ellis?
I'd like to move motion to close nominations.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Jenkins. All those in favor of closing nominations? And opposed? And that motion is carried. And Trustee Lyra, you are the member for the Environmental Education Steering Committee. And that brings us to the end of our elections for this year. As some of you will recall, we deal with the appointments as OPSPA directors in, I think, May, because the OPSPA year runs mostly AGM to AGM. So congratulations and thank you to all of those of you who have been accepted and appointed to various positions. Thank you for allowing your names to be put forward, and I know we will have a very good year. We need a motion to destroy the ballots. Trustee Lyra?
I'd like to make a motion to destroy the ballots and go home.
I don't know if you can include the and go home in it, but we'll deal with that in a moment. Destroy the ballots, seconded by Trustee Schwartz. All those in favor of destroying the ballots? And opposed? And that motion is carried. And I would like to say thanks again to our staff for all the work they did putting this package together, which allowed us to go through this very smoothly, and for managing to hand out ballots, shuffle cards, and do all of the other usual things associated with electing people to positions in the organizational meeting. Thank you all very much. I declare the meeting adjourned.